I think what differentiates us from others, we own the arena, we own the teams, we own the regional sports network. We are curating experiences both in arena and at home for folks, right? So again, we're going to give you that sort of holistic fan experience. And I think that's a differentiator to us versus other RSNs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in. My name is Ava Wallace. I am the author of the Sports Moment newsletter here at the Washington Post and a sports writer who's been here for about 10 years. Today, we are exploring how AI is transforming the sports world from the fan experience to athlete performance. In my first conversation, I'm thrilled to be joined by Charlie Myers, the Chief Technology Officer at Monumental Sports and Entertainment, just down the street from us here in DC. Charlie, welcome.
Ava, hi. Well, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation today.
I'm so happy to be talking to you. Sports has always been an early adopter of technology, but I'm wondering, Charlie, as someone who's worked kind of on the broadcasting side of things, on the tech development side of things, not necessarily as a GM who's trying to use tech to better assemble a roster, how has technology changed the way sports franchises innovate from your point of view?
Yeah, I think technology, and it's interesting you talk about, the team-specific sort of area, like a GM perspective. From where I sit, it's an enterprise platform. And how do we use technology to drive the entirety of our business? I think AI is a really good example where it has application across our entire enterprise. How do we democratize data and allow folks to see, be able to exploit data to change their day-to-day? That could be on the team side, on player performance. That could be on broadcast side, on how do we personalize, personalized experiences for folks. It could be in the arena, from arena operations. So for us, it is the underlying foundation that drives the business and innovates the entire business, both for the fan and for our internal partners and for the players.
And I know you guys care deeply about that at Monumental. I've spent years covering the Wizards and the Mystics. I know that's something Ted Leonsis is certainly passionate about. To kind of drill down on the fan engagement part, what is AI doing? And I know you guys are integrating AI into the arena that you're renovating downtown quite deeply, but what does AI let you do with fan engagement that you couldn't previously do?
Yeah, I think I'll use some examples of things we're doing today. Today, it allows us to quicker deliver things like, highlight packages, right? For our app, our Monumental Sports, our Monumental Plus app, we use AI to do very quick highlight clips and then delivery to fans. And today, everybody, if you watch Monumental Sports Network, we use it for closed captioning, real-time closed captioning, which were really good kind of foundational steps for us to the next step, which is how do we use data, right? With the renovation of Capital One Arena, we really took this, not just a physical one, where you're looking at spaces, new clubs, new suites, new eateries. From my side of the fence, it was really about creating a new tech stack and how do we take a data first approach to rebuilding the arena, and then using that to curate experiences for fans. If you think about when you go to a game or you go to an event at the arena, you're there with your family, you're there with your friends, or you're there on business. And you could be the business one, you could be being entertained, right? You could be the client, or you could be the business owner. All of those are very different. So where I bring this back to how do I use AI, understanding the context in which you're in the arena and how you would want to experience that. We're building several high-end clubs within the arena. We're building a lot of different experiences that go from the 400 level all the way down to some of those clubs that we want to understand what you would want to experience. And so we use looking at AI on, how are you here? Why are you here? And how do we provide you with the best experience? And I think what makes us unique from others, even with using AI, since we operate the arena, we own the teams, we own our regional sports network and direct to consumer aspect of it. I can curate experiences on both ends and really, how do you blend that, right? Because I think that's the challenge is today you're either in the arena or you're at home, and you view those as two different experiences. How do we start to blend those, right? Make that more gray and really delight fans on whether they're at home or here with us.
Charlie, I know you guys acquired the RSN. I think it was 3 years ago. How did the acquisition of Monumental Sports Network, what it's called now, change that process of what you're talking about, the blending? How did that give you guys either new opportunities or maybe change the way you were thinking about, okay, here's how we're going to integrate AI in the future of this company?
Yeah, I think as I stated before, now we own the entire experience. We're doing the
Mhm.
storytelling for fans, and I think we viewed it as by owning the RSN, we're the best stewards of storytelling, even behind the scenes, right? And I think you'll see it on social media, you'll see it on Monumental Sports Network. We do a lot of storytelling of what it takes to produce an event, what's happening with the teams behind the scenes. We have these as we're renovating the arena. We have some nice vignettes where we show folks what's happening, in real time, week to week. I think for us, it allowed us to create that platform, as Ted and Zach always say. Monumental Sports is a platform, and for me, it gave us that end to end from arena to a consumer's home for us to be able to have that exact platform and to then execute on it, right? And because in the end, it's all about fan experience, right? How do we create experiences for folks that they want to continue to come to the arena, they want to continue to watch. We really are stewards of franchises that belong to the fans, they belong to the region, and we want to be the best stewards we can of it. So I think from that perspective, that gave us the opportunity to start to think about from a technological perspective, how do we best take advantage of this and how do we strategically do this? So we talked about the data first sort of aspect of the arena. I think, really looking at how do we, use tools like AI to create great experiences for fans, and unique ones. I think that's really key. There's a lot, there's a number, as you stated before, sports is usually at the forefront of technological adoption. We want to continue. It's not just about the technology. What I'm often telling my team is don't get lost in the cool stuff that we do. It's really about what am I delivering for the fans? What value am I delivering for the fans, right? On a constant basis.
Charlie, can you give me an example of how you guys just kind of connect that line for me of from, okay, here's the AI data we have, here's how we're using the tool, and this is the customizable experience we can create based on whether you're a fan of one of our three different teams or like you mentioned, whether you're there with friends, whether you're entertaining. How does that look in real life, I guess?
Yeah, what we're working on right now is a strategy for when the arena project, right, which is a 3-year effort. Right now, we're building the foundational pieces of that to gather data and understand, who a fan is, how do they experience events at Capital One Arena, and then the end goal really is uh, a potential new app that I'll call it is the remote control of the arena that help guide your experience. So I think a good example would be you buy tickets to a game. We want to be able to give you opportunities to get parking with one of our local partners since this has been deemed an entertainment zone for the city. Are there opportunities to get pre-game dinner reservations? Do you want to have food and beverage waiting for you when you walk in the door? I'll tell you what door to go into based on where your seats are and where you're coming from. Do you want some merchandise from our Fanatics store? Do you want half of it sent to your house because you don't want to walk around with it? Maybe you just want a hat for the game. Are there post-game reservations we can make for you? So you start to think about that entire experience, and then how do you even layer on top of that of maybe find your friend, right? I don't know how many times folks go to games. I know I experienced this, or I found out close friends of mine were there too. And I think right now you may share some of your experiences through social media, but how can I connect you at the game physically? How can I look at maybe I want to give you an offer to get reservations at one of our clubs, right? So you can really enhance that experience. So I think that's how we start to bring this all together and how do we use AI to understand how do you want to experience it? Because we've got, as opposed maybe some other arenas out there where they wanted folks to sit down in their seats and for us, how do you want to experience it? That's why we create all these different spaces. Maybe you're more laid back, maybe it's more social for you, maybe you're a hardcore fan. From that understanding that perspective, we can help enhance that experience through data analysis, and AI helps drive that. It helps speed it up, particularly when we talk about agentic AI, where we're looking at not only identifying actions you should take, but then automating those actions. And I think that's sort of the next step as we look at how do we help drive that technology to help enhance fan experience as we move forward.
Honestly, you had me at, you'll tell me which door to go in. I was like, that's great. That's all I ever want when I go to a game, is to know which door is closest to my seats. I wonder, just because you did mention kind of some other arenas, there is obviously a huge example just in my mind in the NBA, which is the Clippers arena, the Intuit Dome. We've heard so much about all of that tech driven. But I wonder, are you guys looking to examples like that, whether it's in the NBA, NHL, or soccer, anything like that, with these kind of really, really high tech stadiums? What examples are you looking to that you say, oh, we want to be able to do that, and maybe that's not so important to us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're always taking in information about how other peers have been successful. I think we're even a little bit more curious as to what the requirements are. What was the outcomes they're looking for? I'm always really driven with the organization about discussing what's the outcome that you want, and understanding what are the tools that get you to that outcome. So I think for us, it's understanding, having that conversation. Like, tech is cool. There's some really great stuff we've seen at other arenas, but what was the outcome they were looking to achieve? Did they achieve it? And how does it align with the outcomes that we want to get? Again, I think for us, and I think Wizards and Caps fans are the way they experience games are very different. Caps fans are in their seats right off the bat. They're there the whole time. I think maybe a little bit more social experience, sort of experience for Wizards fans, and we want to be able to help facilitate that. So I think that's for us. It's understanding your fan base, understanding how they like to experience games, understand the different requirements. So I think we take that all in, but we're very focused. Our North Star just is, this is the fan experience that we want to help drive. And I think, like as you said before, like simple things like wayfaring, like, can I get to the right bathroom, right? How quick can I get there? And I think those are some of the things we look at AI, being able to manage traffic on a concourse, manage traffic and queuings, right? Queuing for bathroom, queuing for food, right? How do we help alleviate that? How do we do things like use your face as your wallet, right? To be able to buy food and beverage. We do have some spaces like that. How do we help it, again, make it frictionless, make it easy, so you're spending more time doing what you want to do in the arena versus in the line to purchase something or use a bathroom, right?
Charlie, I wonder how your team thinks about trust building, because all of the really cool things you mentioned that I'm just like daydreaming about going to a game, about this seamless experience, but it is data that you're collecting from your fans. Is that something that you guys talk about, or is it more like when people come to the arena and have that great experience, that's how you build trust? I wonder how you guys have conversations around that.
I think we treat it. We often look at this as, how would you treat your own data? I think we talk about acting as, I would say, how do we create experiences as Big Mother, not Big Brother? How am I guiding you through that process? And I think that's a really important piece. I think the trust of the fans is paramount. Security is paramount. We're constantly spending time making sure that we're not, we don't want to lose trust of the fans. So I think for us, it's got a very high value, along with really ensuring that we're using technology like AI. We're using it in a safe way. So I think it's top of mind all the time, and I think it's like, treat it like it's your own, and be Big Mother, not Big Brother.
Charlie, if I could talk to you a little bit more about your background. I know you came from Sirius and have been working on kind of the engineering, broadcasting, tech development side of things, but how has working on this project specifically, where you are integrating AI into the arena, you're working with the Monumental Sports Network, How has your relationship to, I guess, the fans, the audience, viewers at home, changed with the audience that you were catering to previously in your career, both in terms of AI has changed so much in what we do with technology, but also what consumers want from media companies nowadays?
It's a great question, and I think that last statement, what do consumers want from media companies or just entertainment companies? That really depends on. There really are different fan types, right? And I think a good example would be I've got two sons. They'll tell me I'm going to watch the Instagram highlights for a game, when I'm ready. But it depends on the game. If it's a really good game where there's two high-powered teams, I may watch that. If I have a parlay on a game, I may watch. And I'm almost definitely going to watch that entire game. And I think that's different from like my generation, where I'm into the games, I'm into the sports. So I think it depends on the type of fan. I think for sort of comparing it to where I came from, it's always been about personalization, right? And I think if I were to compare my time at my previous employer, it was all about trying to understand the fan and what do they listen to. How do I really hit the sweet spot? Because again, you've got only a period of time where you have people's attention, and I think it's the same thing. It's not very much different here. We've got fans. If they're watching on an app, I've only got their attention for a little bit of time. How do I deliver what they want so they come back to it again? Same thing with a game, right? When they come into the arena, I want it to be a great experience that they want to come back again. I only have that period of time where I can wow them and I can delight them. So I think we really spend a lot of focus on those. Got a small period here. Let's deliver the best experience that we can for folks.
I want to pivot and go to a question from our audience now. Kevin O'Connor from Wisconsin asks, how will AI impact the retail side of the sports business, in particular in creating and promoting consumer products intended for specific parts of the audience? So you've been talking a lot about that customization and really tailoring
Yeah.
to the particular fan, but how does that show up in the merch that I want to buy?
I think it's a great point. I can take a little bit of step back on that. What we're trying to do, I think it really comes down to, and we talk a lot about this within Monumental. Ted says a lot about, we're a tech company. I think that mindset isn't just about using technology. It's about how do you develop products, and that product development has to be thoughtful, and how do you use data and tools to drive that product development. So when I think about retail, when I think about a number of pieces we're looking at, and this is a good application of AI, creating fan personas, right? How do we use fan data to create a persona that says, this is Charlie, he's a 50 something year old from Northern Virginia and he's in technology. We want, is that sort of your audience? What would he want for retail? And I think you can go across multiple age groups, multiple different consumer groups that would help us drive a better retail experience, right? And I'm always mindful. When I first got out of school, I interviewed with Signet Bank Credit Card, which is now Capital One, and they did a really great job at the time of using like control groups to test products. And I think and when I interviewed with them, we talked about direct to home mailers, and the audience may or may not know this, but a direct to home mailer has like a 1% response rate. And I found that to be insane if you think about all the junk mail you get at home from those different mailers. And I keep that in mind as we're developing this product mindset. How do we improve that ratio? Because in the end, if somebody wants to buy it, I know I'm a big sports fan, as you can see even behind me. Like sports and AI are two of my biggest passions. Like I want to find that shirt or that sweatshirt or that jersey really quickly. That really kind of excites me. So how do I deliver that? So I think for us, that's how we're starting to, like, how do I do a better job of product development? How do I take fan data to be able to use that to develop products ahead of time that are going to meet those needs? So I think that's how we attack that retail space sort of question.
And Charlie, you mentioned a little bit about just being able to get fans at home highlights quicker, or the auto captioning that you mentioned. But what impact is AI having on kind of the type of content that you guys deliver to consumers? I guess, like you said, you control the story, so you can show them the behind the scenes thing. But is there anything that maybe you weren't able to do a few years ago as a media company that you can get to viewers who aren't coming to games but who are having a unique experience at home on their phones watching the network?
Yeah, I think from an AI perspective, some of the things that we're working on right now that sort of fall within that vein that you're talking about are are there unique camera angles that we want to deliver to somebody because they really want to understand better about where that shot came from. I think if you look at even some of like NBA platform and some others where how do I catch you up on a game with AI cut highlights beforehand? We're working towards some of these same experiences, and that's both out of arena and in arena because I think that's an important piece. Where in the arena, you've got a particular view of the game you're experiencing from your seat, but can I give you different optionality around that to be able to see maybe a shot from a different angle where you didn't see what happened, or the amazing shot that Alex Ovechkin took and how did he do that? But you want to see it from different angles. So using AI, I think, to quicker deliver that content and understand maybe what your predilections are around that, or how we see us delivering things a lot quicker for folks. I think that's just really is. And I think the other piece of it is how do we leverage our library to be able to deliver things based on social media tagging, like trends that are on that, and we're working a lot on that right now on being able to exploit that because in the end, fans just want to be able to see the content about their favorite player, about a highlight that happened last night, about maybe something that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I think for us, it's just how do I do that in a more expedient manner and expose more because we've got many years of content available to us, and we want to be able to expose that to the fans.
Charlie, I wanted to ask you just one kind of closing question, but I wonder, your job must change so much so quickly. I'm sure it was extremely different 3 years ago than is today. But what are you excited about in the future that maybe we, as people who don't work in technology, don't know people who do work in technology are already thinking about? Is there something that you're really raring to get going on?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think if folks don't feel it, you're at the beginning of what's analogous to the Industrial Revolution with AI. And I think one of my colleagues here in the industry said it best recently. This is the worst AI is ever going to be. So I think within the next year, the next 5 years, not only will you doing searches, simple searches and things like that with AI, will it amaze you, but the way that it automates and changes how we do our work is going to be just phenomenal. So what gets me up in the morning, honestly, excited, agentic AI, the way that we can better deliver services internally, not only for our fans, but even for my teammates within MSC. There's such an opportunity for us to be quicker and deliver more value, not only to the fans, to the sponsors that we have, all the different partners, to the league. So it's really exciting. But I think we're on the cusp of this really explosion of technology, and again, like if you think about where it was a year to where it is today, a year from today, it's going to be even completely different than what you see. So that really excites me.
You'll have to come back and explain to us in a year, then explain all the things that you've learned and that you've developed in the year since. But unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to leave it there. But this has been really fascinating. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
And stick around, everybody. I will be talking with Brian Moore after this.
Hello, and welcome to this special conversation on transforming basketball through cloud innovation. My name is Lana Wong, and I'm a founding member of Moderate the Panel, a global team of diverse women moderators. I'm also a proud basketball mom. I have a son who plays club ball for his college, and so I'm extra excited to be here today with AWS Vice President Francesca Vasquez to hear more about their exciting new partnership with the NBA. This game-changing partnership will change and redefine the way the sport is played, analyzed, and enjoyed, from courtside to living rooms all around the world. So, Francesca, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lana. I'm very excited to be here with you today.
Excellent. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the big picture. What makes this partnership between AWS and the NBA such a milestone for both professional sports, but also basketball fans worldwide?
Well, Lana, I thought I would start off just sharing that I'm excited to be here with you. I'm also a league fan, a proud basketball mom, and an AI thought leader. And so this partnership, it really represents the next evolution of sports intelligence, where every dribble, pass, and shot becomes data, and that data fuels discovery. You know, the NBA has always been a storytelling league, and now with AWS, those stories are powered by both AI and data, revealing the why behind every play in real time. For the first time, the entire league's optical tracking, video, and historical data are being unified in the cloud. And it's creating one of the most sophisticated AI pipelines in professional sports. So, together, our cultures of innovation are transforming basketball from a game of highlights into a living data ecosystem that coaches and players and fans can all learn from. And most importantly, Lana, it's not just a technology milestone. This is a fan milestone, giving hundreds of millions of people a deeper, more connected experience with the game that they love, that we all love.
Excellent. And so you mentioned the data. Let's dig into that because when a star player shoots a three-pointer, fans all around the world expect in-depth, instant analysis in their local language. But every game generates a ton of data, and there are 1,200 games in a season. So how does AWS's infrastructure transform that massive amount of data into real-time insights for fans?
Well, data is every league's differentiator. We all know that there are 82 regular season games across 30 teams. And if you think about that, each NBA game generates roughly 1.2 terabytes of optical tracking and video data per game. And that's over 2.5 petabytes every single season. And to put that in context, that is the equivalent to nearly 60,000 hours of basketball video. Our infrastructure, AWS's infrastructure, it scales automatically to be able to process this torrent of information across 38 global regions and over 120 availability zones. And that ensures that the global fan base sees statistics in milliseconds and in their local language. And this infrastructure can scale even beyond petabytes, Lana, as the NBA's capabilities begin to scale. We use machine learning models on Amazon SageMaker. We transform raw positional data into advanced metrics like shot difficulty, player gravity, and defensive matchups. AWS data services like Redshift, Bedrock, and OpenSearch, they make it possible to index and query this data for everything from fan dashboards to AI-powered highlights generation. And that's across multiple digital streams, web, mobile, the app. So in short, every pass, every pivot, and every play becomes structured intelligence, instantly available across over 214 countries. It's incredible.
That's awesome. So AWS and the NBA are clearly creating a new sports paradigm for analytics and the fan experience. How do you think this is really going to change the way we watch and experience basketball?
It's a great question. You know, the partnership brings AI from behind the scenes to the screen, making it far more interactive, explainable, and highly personal. You know, imagine a fan being able to search a play by description or generate highlights of every left hand drive past three defenders. That's AWS powering NBA Playfinder and other new AI driven features. There will be advanced stats like expected field goal percentage or defensive box score, giving fans context like they've never had before. And not just what happened, Lana, but why it happened. And so, through quick site dashboards and generative AI overlays that we've developed, we have the potential to create new formats for storytelling, from broadcast graphics to AR and VR experiences that make analytics as exciting as the action itself. This data, this is data that's becoming entertainment. It's a new paradigm for how fans understand and how they'll appreciate the game even more.
Amazing. So, I mean, clearly technology is moving at warp speed. So, if we fast forward a few years, what do you think the future of fandom looks like with AWS powering the NBA? And how could this innovation change the global sports world, but also the non-sports world more broadly?
I think the future of sports will be highly personalized. It'll be predictive and participatory. Fans won't just watch the game, they'll interact with it in real time, powered by AI. You know, as large language models and real time data converge, imagine a personal courtside AI assistant answering your questions, showing your favorite players' evolution, even suggesting similar plays from the past. And I think beyond sports, this is a blueprint. It's a blueprint for any global content ecosystem where data, AI, and creativity combine to make these experiences more intelligent and emotionally resonant. And so the NBA and AWS, what we are building, well, we're building the world's most advanced sports AI lab. And the breakthroughs here will ripple far beyond basketball, Lana. And I'm excited that we're on this journey together.
Amazing. Well, I'm excited to have heard all about this from the inside. So, Francesca, thank you so much for sharing about this groundbreaking partnership between AWS and the NBA. We really can't wait for what's next. And so, thank you all to the audience for joining us online. If you'd like to add your voice to this conversation, please do so using the hashtag #PostLive. I'm Lana Wong, and now I'm happy to hand it over back to our colleagues at the Washington Post.
We look after some of the best athletes on the planet. Our job is to help them to optimize their recovery and to play as long as they can. And we do that using biomarkers and data science, machine learning. So take small amounts of blood and give them insights about how their body's adapting to the training, the games, and then help them recover to perform their best on any given day.
Hi there to any of you who are just joining us. My name is Ava Wallace. I'm the author of the Sports Moment newsletter and a sports reporter here at the Washington Post. And now I'm so happy to be joined by the CEO of Oracle, Brian Moore. Brian, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Ava. Thanks very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. We love all things sports and AI, so any opportunity to talk about it, we're there.
I was going to say, I'm a little bit familiar with you just from my NBA reporter background. I remember when you were taking some tiny blood samples of the Dallas Mavericks and telling players, where their hormones were at and what more protein they needed and how much rest they could get. But for people who maybe aren't familiar, can you kind of just give us a brief overview of what you guys do at Orico, both from a biometric standpoint and then how that factors into the AI technology that you're using?
Of course, yeah. One of our earliest opportunities in the NBA was with the Dallas Mavericks and Mark Cuban and the head trainer Casey Smith, who's now with the New York Knicks. And really, it's all about supported decision making, helping them give information to decide about the next training session, about how quickly we can help them recover, and how this relates back to performance. Because at the end of the day, in elite sport, it's all about winning. So I think there's an amazing quote from Roger Federer where he said, I won 80% of the games, but I only won 54% of the points. So it's really about supported decision making. So there's three parts to our business. It's easy to remember around BMW. So we started off with biomarkers, then motion AI and women's performance. So our marketing told me that BMW might be taken, so I listened to them there. But from our perspective, it's linking all this information together to help understand what's happening under the hood of the athlete. So we're very, very good at understanding how far an athlete ran, the speeds, their accelerations, their decelerations. Adding the biomarkers gives us an extra insight into how the body is adapting and recovering. And we're all very, very different. And as Charlie talked about, personalization, really, that's the key. So it's about how to help any athlete be their best on any given day. And then as that data evolved, we found more and more information, particularly in the optical tracking systems, which just exploded. So back in the day when I started, we had limited information. We had maybe heart rate data, we had some lactate, we had speeds, we could get some training data. Now, with as Francesca was talking about, you're talking about 27 data points per player, 50 times a second. So you get really, really powerful information around how an athlete is moving. And we've seen changes in the blood that correspond with how a player is changing movement. And there's really powerful insights there that you really do need AI to leverage because it's so vast. And then I suppose the final point of this is women's performance, which women have been egregiously overlooked by science and medicine for a very long time. And it's really understanding the impact of menstrual cycles and how unique women's physiology can be used to support decision making to help the athlete be their best on any given day. So we blend all those three areas together to provide, I suppose, cutting edge insights for some of the best athletes on the planet.
So, Brian, I understand how motion tracking, something you talk about a lot, is how you can help kind of prevent really gnarly injuries, hamstring injuries, things like that take a long time to recover. I understand why teams and athletes would want that type of data. But you guys also have partnerships with leagues. You just kind of had one with the MLS Innovation Lab. I know that you're also working with the NBA and their Sport Radar, which I love because that's what gets me stats. So I can write my stories and kind of things from there. But from the league level, how does your work translate to what the MLS is interested in or what the NBA wants to know about its players?
Sure. The saying goes, the best ability is availability. And if you even hear what Charlie was talking about in terms of the fan experience, historically fans really engage with their team and they would devour all things and all information about it. Now the younger generation, and including our two sons at home, they are really interested in individual players, and this idea that Angela Ruggiero at the Sports Innovation Lab developed around the fluid fan. So the fans are really, really interested in individual players as well as the team. And then if you look at, obviously viewership and the fact that fans are tuning in to see the stars, if the stars aren't available, that has an impact on the business across the board. So from when we started off very much on individual athletes and teams, that work has caught the attention of the leagues because, again, they just want their star players to play. And the optical tracking data that we just announced today, the relationship with Sport Radar, gives us phenomenal information. So what we were start to see was, like the game has completely changed. If you look over the last 10 years, basketball as an example, it used to be 8 seconds up, 8 seconds set, 8 seconds score. Now it's 8 seconds up, launch a three, goes in, great. If not, get the rebound. If it does, haul back and then to defend and spread. And that's changed the demands on the player. So I do think that's part of the reason why you start to see an uptick in injuries, because again the decelerations are immense that we can quantify from the tracking data. So I think that's really what's driving the interest at a league level, because they want their stars available, and we all want to see the best of the athletes play all day, every day if we can.
As those changes in sports have kind of happened across the board with all types of different sports, how have the tools that you guys develop, or maybe the data you offer, evolved as athletes evolved, as the game evolved, as the demands on athletes evolved, both on field and off field? Has that changed much in the past few years?
It's absolutely exploded. It's like a different world, really. I mean, I think this is very much a team sport, and to solve the kind of answer the really hard questions that we're tackling at Oracle, you need multiple inputs. So really, this is about giving information, supporting the team physicians, the athletic trainers, and then supporting ownership as they're kind of looking to provide the best for their teams. There are amazing technologies out there that we will look at, like 1080 sprint for resisted sprinting, force decks to measure athletes jumping capacity. We can also look at the GPS, the acceleration and the deceleration. We're looking at things like Prism Neuro for neural training to recover post-injury, or amazing tech like Resel that we're using for end-stage rehab. So it's really using this data at every stage of the performance program. One, to help the players become more available, reduce the risk of being hurt. And if they are hurt, we can actually use the data and the AI to bring them back safely and reduce the risk of re-injury, because we know that's one of the greatest risk factors is previous injury.
Brian, will you explain a little bit about how your guys' motion tracking can potentially help actually prevent injuries? I'm so fascinated by that.
Yeah, I mean, I can take no credit. I really have to defer to our amazing team of academic researchers and machine learning specialists and computer scientists. And it really came from a player who got hurt, and we built like an F1 dashboard. We have all the telemetry on all the players, and a player got hurt to the non-contact injury, and they're the ones that you worry about, because often there's no warning sign. And where this started from was the tracking data became available, and we were trying to figure out, we were seeing changes in the biomarkers when a player was getting hurt. We were seeing increases in inflammation. Sometimes cortisol was increased, testosterone might be reduced. You were just definitely seeing changes on their immune profile as well. And then when we put that together with the tracking data, that provided us some really, really exciting insights and avenues for research. So there's an amazing trainer and physiotherapist at the Toronto Raptors, Alex McKechnie, and he would always say the best athletes will borrow range until they can't anymore. So what we were seeing is when the athletes had to sprint more, obviously you had to decelerate then, because otherwise you'll run off the court. That deceleration is causing inflammation, which is changing your movement behavior, which can ultimately drive risk. So this was a real eye-opener for us, and we worked with Dr. Paul Catterson and James Bunce at Newcastle United, and we started to see this pattern consistently around injuries and clustering of different types of profile around different types of injury, from hamstring to ACL to calves to groins. And I suppose we focused on the hamstring because they're the most prevalent, and they're also a high time loss burden. So what's been really interesting then is, can you use that information then to help guide the player back? Because to rehab a player in a straight line, they're very well established protocols. What's difficult to do is to recreate the curvilinear runs and into like a fast, to slow down very quickly and then change a direction. So we've been using the data to come up with new tools, like one called Trace, where we can almost like a bespoke suit. It's the difference between getting a nice suit in a shop, or then getting one that's specifically made to you. I think Charlie talked about personalization, and we can do the same with the athletes. So you can use the data to replicate the exact runs to when they got hurt, then can they tolerate that load? So because the demands on the players have never been greater, and Dr. Damien Harper has shown us that there's typically, if you're going for a run, or if you're trying to run after a bus, or like me when I was starting off trying to run after Kenyan runners unsuccessfully. There's about 3.5 times your body weight of force generated, but we've seen now that up to 6 times body weight, typically on one leg in the last couple of steps before you hit the brakes. So what we've seen is that we've been very good historically at teaching athletes how to accelerate, but really braking can be hugely, I suppose, important and help. If that answers your question.
Definitely. Brian, did you ever face any skepticism, either from individual athletes who you were kind of presenting your suite of tools to, or from teams? I just know there's some subset of athletes who want to know every single tiny little detail about what goes onto their body, and then some who say, actually, I want to play more by feel, and don't tell me when I should be, taking a three-pointer or when I should be slowing down. How did you talk to athletes in the beginning, and has it changed how you talk to athletes and teams and leagues now?
Absolutely, that's such a great question, Ava. Like, it's all about the athlete. So our actual team platform is called it's called Athlete, and then they can connect to their team. You can see we spent a lot on the marketing budget there. But for the athlete, it's really how can we get this information into their hands in a way that they can use? And like you say, some athletes have PhDs or MDs and they're into all the data. Others just want to play. So I think elite athletes are phenomenally perceptive. They know their bodies extremely well. And that's what we found is very interesting is when you, for example, can show them information from a pinprick blood test that takes about 4 minutes to run, and you get a sense of their inflammation. You can often see how they're feeling, and it kind of corresponds with how they're feeling. So you never want to be just working off the data and making pure decisions off data. It's talk to the athlete, understand them, provide the information to the team physicians and the trainers to support their decision. So what we found is, like, early in the career, athletes are really, really into the tech. At the back end of their career, athletes are like, oh, if I use this properly, this could get another 1 or 2 or 3 years of extend my career. And in the middle, athletes are like, okay, you get one chance. The athlete will sense instantly if you don't know what you're talking about or if you're making things up. And that's the really interesting thing about the data is it's there, it's objective. So it doesn't really care what I think. It's like, either it is or it isn't. Our job is to translate it, make it useful, like there and now. But also, I definitely would have paid more attention to maths, put it that way. I was looking out the window, playing sports and wanted to be out there. But when you see what's possible from AI, and Professor Newell introduced us to Bayes' theorem. So we're using historical information and knowledge plus new data to make better decisions. This gets very, very interesting.
Brian, I want to talk to you about your guys' work specifically with women athletes and women's sports. How, obviously, your expertise is in physiology, and women's physiology in particular has been so wildly understudied. When did that kind of become a part of what you guys do at Orico? Why did that interest you? Tell me a little bit about your work in that field.
Of course. The first athlete I ever worked with was Sonia O'Sullivan. She's a legend in Ireland. She was Olympic silver medalist and world champion and a world record holder. And this was in the late 90s, early 2000s, and we would have asked the question about the menstrual cycle and very basic questions. It was only after we started research. It was Dr. Georgie Brunveld's on our team came to me and said, "You do know there's no research on women?" And I looked and said, "Well, we've been using historically very flawed information." So when I went back and really looked, I was like, "Oh my God, this is terrible. Like, this is so basic." And the first thing I did was to go back and to apologize to Sonia, to say we really didn't, how much faster could you have gone? And she said, to be fair, at the time, well, I wouldn't have been comfortable talking about it. So there was a couple of different areas. One, this is an important topic that you can talk from a scientific perspective, but we know that, girls and women are sometimes 4 to 6 times more likely to have an ACL rupture. They're twice as likely to drop out of sports earlier in their development. And so really, Georgie, and I think Emma Hayes, who was the head coach at Chelsea, she deserves huge credit. Georgie and Emma at Chelsea drove a lot of this early work, and we were just trying to put tools together to help support. We knew, from meta-analysis that the research was very light, but rather than sit and write another paper on it, we just started to build tools to see, can we be helpful? So around symptom tracking, cycle lengths, and we found really interesting patterns there. And then it's really about help athletes understand their own bodies, and it gives them the information to make decisions. So and the team physicians. So it was really a starting point. Again, all the credit has to go to Dr. Georgie to Emma, and then Don Scott brought the technology to the US Women's National Team for the 2019 World Cup, and then that's gone full circle now into the Lionesses, and then who won the European Championships, and now with Emma with the US Women's National Team again, they're really pushing things on at that level. So it was really that combination of the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, understanding them in the context. Again, we're not doing frequent measurement of blood testing, but you're just getting a guide, and when you see cycles elongate or miss cycles, Professor Carrie McGauley, that leads our team, had some shocking statistics that we were seeing, and athletes reporting elite sport first, period later, and so that was having long-term implications potentially for their health. So it's really about an education piece to build. We funded 3 PhDs in the area, and as with all of these areas, it's a team sport, and there's so much work to be done. We're just trying our bit in our way to move the ball forward.
You mentioned all the work to be done. How does AI help close the gap in historical data? Is it just that we can understand all of the data and sort through it more quickly? But can you kind of take me through that? I need to be these things need to be mapped out for me. I was like you, not paying attention in math class, just daydreaming out the window about
yeah. And I regret it now, because thankfully we've got very smart people in Team Oracle that help guide us. But I suppose what's getting very interesting is using the large language models. We talked a lot with Mark when he was at the Mavs, and then as this evolved over the last few years around using large language models to build questions and answers, ask about a player's recovery, look at questions about their sleep, their nutrition when a player does get hurt. I think the tools and the platforms are evolving now to a point where you're really using agentic AI, or starting to get these knowledge loops and feedback to give the right insight to the right athlete at the right time. And it's like players now can engage with this information about scouting up their upcoming appointment, or like their opponent, tell them about their next physio appointment. What should I eat after this training session based on the fact that I did 15 high-speed decels and I covered this amount of ground. So I think this is getting super interesting. There's a huge trust component to this in terms of the athlete's data, the security, who owns it, and that's why we work very closely with the players' associations. We're doing research with the NFLPA and the Harvard Football Project. We've got a great relationship with the NBA Players Association, and have had fantastic conversations with the NHLPA as well. So it's that combination of, look, we used to be data poor, and now we're data rich, but it's the insights are harder to come by because to kind of find the signal in the noise, and that's where the AI is really helping us to give hyper personalized suggestions. Again, we've got a human in the loop that's helping us to guide this. We're constantly looking at the performance of the tools, and if you looked at what AWS are doing, we've been super impressed by what's going on in Gemini, the latest 3 release, and we're looking at all the models. So I think as this evolves, teams are getting very, very sophisticated, and it's really about how can we leverage this information to make better decisions. That's where it's getting exciting.
And as you guys make those considerations, how do you anticipate, or how do you kind of talk about the risks with democratizing the data? The opportunities kind of seem limitless, but I assume there are some things that you want to say, okay, we want to make sure. You mentioned data privacy, but are there other risks that you guys kind of work through on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think it's really about, the ownership of the data as well is so important, and permissions. And so all of our systems are that an athlete can opt out instantly. They have the right to have the data erased. And I think there's a really cool company called Sports Data Labs that's done a lot of work in this area with FIFPro, where it gives the athlete complete control of their data in terms of access and who can use it and how they can use it, and ultimately that they can monetize it. So I think in the first instance, you want to make sure that the data is being used to support the athlete, not used against them. And we've done a lot of really interesting work with Todd Ramazar, the NBA agent, and Alan Roy in the NHL to help protect their players and support their decisions. It's really about career longevity. And there's a very fine line. It's like in business, the law of diminishing marginal returns apply. So the athletes are working extremely hard, but if you work too hard, you can get sick or hurt. So I think, privacy is one, security is two, and then really ownership. But I think the athletes are in an amazing place because ultimately this data is immensely valuable. And I feel personally that ultimately the athletes are going to get paid like a Spotify stream as the data gets, if they choose to share it, or for model ingestions, for talent identification, or for personalized nutrition. So there's huge opportunity, but there have to be guardrails in place. And that's why we work so closely with the Players Association, working with agents and the voices of the player at the center of everything that we do.
That's so fascinating to imagine that athletes getting compensated for that critical data. That's really interesting.
Yeah,
What other?
I think it's sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I think if you look at an athlete's career is so short, and I think ultimately this could be a long-tailed asset for the player. It has to be curated and organized in a way, firstly to help me play for longer and help me recover faster, and also hit all the metrics that I want to. But ultimately, I think if the data is stored properly, and with innovations like Sports Data Labs and the work that we're doing to curate this almost like a library of the player for the player, then I think there's an opportunity there that down the line we haven't really figured out in terms of the whole industry, but that's coming, I think.
What other breakthroughs are you kind of keeping an eye out for, maybe in athlete monitoring and predictive modeling? Is there something on the horizon that you're really excited, or you think like, this is coming in a couple of years, we're just beginning to kind of crack through now?
We're really investing heavily in areas like computer vision, like we talked about, but also decision science. So in terms of this so much information, how do we know that we're making the correct decision? How do we use this information to test our own decision making and look at the bias that we have, and then to get smarter? We're really, really interested in neurophysiology. So in terms of what we're seeing from the brain, signaling in terms of injury risk, and then how do you bring players back? I think that's hugely exciting. We've been training drones using the data to help recreate the pathways for players to come back, and I think that whole area is fascinating. And I love, on a personal level, the broadcast last night with Monsters Inc. To bring new fans into the whole area and get them interested in data. But when you look at, I definitely would have paid more attention if I've been taught the physics of a free kick and what the data is showing, and it would help me, I suppose, to fall in love with math. So I'm getting there, but really, it's a really exciting time in the space. Conscious of the guardrails that we need to put in place, but it's such a privilege to be here in one of the most, I suppose, amazing R&D environments, where we have the privilege of being invited into these amazing organizations, and we're just there we're a small part of the jigsaw, helping the teams get better and the players too.
If I could wrap up with one more question, it seems like you've worked with every type of athlete, every type of game, league, everything under the sun. Do you have a favorite project you've worked on, a favorite team that you've gotten to work with? Is there something really cool that you just got to wake up every day and say, man, that was so much fun? I'd love to hear about it.
Ava, hand on heart, we've got an amazing, every day is so different. And the bit that I get so excited about is I'll speak as a sports scientist / failed athlete. If we could do, or I could do what the athletes are doing, I would have done that. But this is as close I could get to it. And when you see the athletes, up close, when you see how they move, when you understand the decisions that they make, when you understand the pressures that they're under, like, every day is a privilege. So I figured out when I went running with the Kenyans within about 0.8 of a second that I needed to do something else if I was going to run against these guys and girls from my lunch. But from the Rift Valley through to the Olympic Stadium in Sydney, through to MSG, or go to any of the bowls in states in the States, they're amazing environments. So every day is an absolute privilege. And the other part of this is that sports are really ruthless. You have to add value, or else you're not kept around for very long. And that's why we like it. So it keeps us on our toes.
We're all just adrenaline junkies at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Brian, I could talk to you all day, but unfortunately that's all the time we have. But thank you so much. This has been really fascinating. I appreciate you giving us the time.
Pleasure, Ava. Thanks so much for the conversation. Really enjoyed it.
And thanks to all of you for watching. For more of these important conversations, sign up for a Washington Post subscription. Get a free trial by visiting washingtonpost.com/live. I'm Ava Wallace, and thanks again.